Greetings everyone, Stizzle466 here, and in today's video I've got 16 wild decks to share with you that have been successful in the first week of the Rise of Shadows expansion. The first deck we have is AAEBAQcEsAKvBIQXkbwCDRz Secret Mage. This isn't running any new cards, as is the case for the next few decks you're going to see, but this is a very powerful deck in the current meta because there's a lot of greed. There are a lot of very greedy warlocks, there are a lot of greedy priests, and Secret Mage is the way to take advantage of them. So there's nothing particularly special about this list, but it's definitely a list that you'll have some success climbing the ladder if you're queuing into a lot of warlocks and priests. Next up we have Corbet's Kingsbane Rogue. This deck also doesn't need any adjustments from the Rise of Shadows expansion. It is just a very powerful deck. Again, similar to Secret Mage, this is a deck that is amazing against warlocks and priests and slow decks in general. It's also very fast, so if you want to get some quick wins on the ladder, Kingsbane Rogue is the way to go. Next up, we have our old friend, Even Shaman. Even Shaman, nothing's really changed with the archetype. This might not necessarily be the most optimal list, but it's Even Shaman. I mean, you got Thing from Below's, you've got Sea Giants, you've got Flame Wreath Faceless. It's just a powerhouse deck, very strong. This specific build is teched against Kingsbane Rogue with the Galactic Crawlers. If you're finding that you're not facing a lot of Kingsbane Rogues or a lot of pirate decks, you might want to swap out the Galactic Crawlers for something else. There's an old friend back in the meta. His name is Pirate Warrior. Pirate Warrior is a deck that kind of fell down the tier list, kind of fell down into like tier 3. It's making a comeback. Again, because the meta is so greedy and so unrefined right now, Pirate Warrior is seeing a big uptick in play in the meta. Again, there's nothing special about this deck. It's the old Pirate Warrior that we're used to, but the meta is currently in a state where Pirate Warrior can really push up the ladder and get a lot of wins. The last deck to feature that doesn't have any new cards is Odd Warrior. Players have been experimenting with trying to get bombs to work in Warrior, whether it's Odd or a Dead Man's Hand. Doesn't seem to work to this point. Looks like if you just go for the good old Odd Warrior from before the Rise of Shadows expansion, again, this is a deck that you want to play if you're queuing into a lot of aggro, paladins, even shamans, just to punish that greed in the ladder. If you're queuing into a lot of big priest, you might regret playing this deck, but definitely a deck that punishes the aggression in the meta. Okay, so now finally we get to some decks running some new cards. Pure is a player on the EU server who typically gets very high ranks. This specific list was originally Rena Jackson's Theorycraft, and Pure took this to very high legend on EU. The new cards we have in this list are the Archmage Vargoth. We've got just the Archmage Vargoth. Some other lists are running Hecklebot. Some other lists are running the 5 mana card that deals 4 damage if you got a big spell, but it was kind of gimmicky. This specific list is tech for aggro, hence the Starfall. So just a really solid deck to climb the ladder with. Concerned Mum has also been tearing up the ladder this expansion. You'll see multiple of his decks featured in this video, the first one being Togwaggle Druid. Now, the card that has brought Togwaggle Druid back into the meta is Geppetto Joybuzz. So basically what Geppetto Joybuzz lets you do is it lets you add consistency to the deck. Togwaggle Druid was still a thing before the Rise of Shadows expansion. The only difference is because Aviana was 10, if you wanted to do your big crazy combo, you had to have an innovative hand to pull that off. That's no longer the case. You can now Geppetto Joybuzz to reduce your combo pieces down to 2 of your combo pieces down to 1 mana. If you can reduce the Aviana down to 1 mana, it's absolutely insane. And this is just a powerhouse deck. Very difficult deck to pilot, but very powerful deck to climb in the current meta. Another deck that's coming back into the meta is Aggro Druid. So again, this might just be a fad similar to Pirate Warrior because the meta is very unrefined, but Dylan Lefevre has had success with his build of Aggro Druid. The new cards that we're seeing run in this list are Acorn Bearers. These are 1 mana 2/1s. The Death Rattle add 2/1/1 squirrels to your hand. Keep in mind that these are beasts which have synergy with Mark of Yasharj. We've also got Blessings of Ancients, which is a twin spell. Twin spell means that you can cast it twice, so you can cast it once for 3, and then same turn or another turn, cast it again for 3. Again, just gives you some extra redundancy with your Mark of the Lotus, Savage Roar, Power of the Wild. Again, this is a deck that really punishes the greed out there. You may or may not have success with this, but definitely something really fun that I personally want to try myself. Next up, we have Duin, who is a hunter specialist in Wild, and this is his new version of Secret Hunter. So it's running 9 lives. So 9 lives lets you discover a friendly Death Rattle minion that died this game, also trigger its Death Rattle. So the specific Death Rattles in this deck are Sylvanas, and you've got Unstable Ghoul. Now, Unstable Ghoul is a great re-trigger against aggro. Sylvanas is a great re-trigger against control. But then there's an extra very special combo in this deck. And it's the combo of Unstable Ghoul and Toxic Arrow. Essentially what you can do is you can deal 2 damage to your own Unstable Ghoul that gives it poisonous from the Toxic Arrow. You can then trade your Unstable Ghoul in and completely clear the board of all minions. Obviously, if there are Death Rattles, those Death Rattles will come up, but it's a really nice board clear for Hunter that Duin has come up with. Our good friend Odd Paladin is still tearing up the meta. Shido has had success with this specific build. It's very similar to the Odd Paladin builds we've been seeing in the meta, with the addition of 1 new card, Never Surrender. This is a card that just really makes it difficult for your opponent to clear board, because it's not after they cast the spell, it's when they cast the spell. So your opponent might play a Defile, it may not necessarily work, because your minions are getting buffed with an additional 2 health. So this is just a really powerful card that's helped keep Odd Paladin in the meta still. Next up, fan favorite or not, Big Priest. Big Priest has seen some extra additions this expansion, much to many people's disgust. We've got Archmage Vargoth. This was a legendary that was given to everyone for free. Incredible card in Big Priest. We've also got Katrina. At the end of your turn, summon a friendly minion that died this game. So Concerned Mum has replaced Ragnaros with this card with great success. And even though many thought that Master Resurrection wasn't going to see play in Big Priest, turns out it's actually pretty good. Yes, you've got your 7 mana Spellstones, but basically you've got a 3rd Spellstone. Running 2 of these is a little bit too greedy. Running 1 is just this perfect sweet spot which can just decimate your opponent. There's another deck back in the meta, Odd Rogue. Odd Rogue got killed off when the Cold Blood nerf happened. Thankfully, because of a few new cards, or a couple of new cards, Odd Rogue's actually back in the meta. And Memnarch actually took this list from rank 4 up to rank 9 legend. And the 2 cards that make this list come back, first of all, is Flightmaster. This is a 3 mana 3/4 Battlecry, summon a 2/2 Griffin for each player. So there are a couple of reasons this is good. Against a Big Priest, it messes up their Resurrect pool because you're putting a 2/2 Griffin in. Against aggressive decks, it actually is a tempo play when you have your weapon up, because you can play this and just use your 2/2 weapon to take out the 2/2. It also has synergy with Dark-Eye and Skulker. You can play your Flightmaster, play your Dark-Eye and Skulker, clear board, in addition to that 2/2, and just get a bigger tempo swing. The other card that's really helping the archetype is Evil Miscreant. So this is a 3-mana 1/5 with combo, add 2 random lackeys to your hand. Now first of all, a 3-mana 1/5 body is amazing against Paladin. Furthermore, you're getting 2 1-drops in your hand. These are combo enablers, and some of these lackeys are incredibly powerful. Just to name a couple, you've got the lackey that's a 1-mana 1/1 deal 2 damage to anything. You've also got the lackey that lets you discover a spell. This could let you get a Sinister Strike or an Eviscerate for lethal. Like, the lackeys are actually very, very powerful, and this is a card that I think might be a staple now in Odd Rogue. I've been trying to push Legend with this specific list myself, currently sitting at around halfway to rank 2, with about a 70% win rate. Really powerful deck. I highly suggest trying this one out. Another aggressive deck you might want to try out is Heilung's Murloc Shaman. He exclusively played this to Legend, and his specific take has quite a few new cards in the list. We've got Sludge Slurper, which is a 1-mana 2/1 Murloc Battlecry, add a lackey to your hand, overload 1. As mentioned with Odd Rogue, lackeys are really powerful. You've also got Toxfin, which is a crazy swing card. Giving a friendly Murloc poisonous just helps you deal with whether it's a Deathlord or a City and Statue. Just a crazy card to give you tempo. You've also got Henchclan Hogsteed. It's a rush minion, which is good for board control, but you get a Murloc as the Death Rattle, which is also great for all the Murloc synergy in the deck. You've got Soul of the Murloc, which gives your minions Death Rattle, summon a 1/1 Murloc. You've got Underbelly Angler, which is an insane card. It basically gives you kind of implicit card draw because you're playing all these cheap Murlocs and generating more Murlocs in your hand. A lot of the time, these Murlocs you generate can be played again to generate more Murlocs. You've got Scargill, which makes all your Murlocs cost 1, which is again a ridiculous card. This is not a new card, but it's a card that didn't see play in the past. Siltfin Spiritwalker is a 4-mana 2/5. Whenever another friendly minion dies, draw a card, overload 1. This is a little bit like Cult Master, but a Murloc. You've also got Storm Chaser. Again, this is not a new card, but it's in the deck. The reason this is in the deck is because you want to be able to draw your Everything is Awesome. This is your finisher. This is like your Savage Roar, but because of all the Murlocs you have on board, a lot of the time this does not cost very much. You'll also notice that the Murloc quest is not in this deck, and that is simply because Wild is too fast and does not have time to play a quest on turn 1. You play a quest on turn 1, your opponent's probably going to kill you. To finish up, we've got 3 Warlock decks. Even Warlock is still very strong in the current meta. Some new additions to the deck are Hecklebot to help with some of the combos. Also just very good against aggro, being able to have this big body on board. Apart from Hecklebot, the list is pretty much the same. We've also got Mecha'thun Lock, which again is pretty much the same. This is probably the most optimal version, using Hemet Drenkelhunter to blast out most of your deck. But just to help you if you're having a clunky hand or just need some specific card desperately, there's a single plot twist in this deck. That is the only new card currently being run in Mecha'thun Lock. And the last deck I want to mention, and this is a bit of a controversial one, is Concerned Mom's Darkest Hour Warlock. So you may have seen me mention this deck in last week's content. This is a super high roll deck. When you get the combo pieces, Blood Bloom, one of the Imp Generation cards, and Darkest Hour, you basically just win the game on the spot. If you don't get that 3-card combo early enough, you usually lose the game on the spot. So it's a very draw dependent deck, but one thing interesting, it's a new deck in the meta. So this is the first, and hopefully there are more to come, new archetypes in the wild meta. If you want to be super degenerate and have a lot of fun, it's a ridiculous deck to play. Just keep in mind that you got to draw the cards soon or you will lose. So hopefully these decks will help you climb the WoW ladder as well. All of the deck codes are available in the description below. If you have any other decks that you've had success with, I'd also like to check them out, so please leave a deck code in the comments below. I'd like to thank you all for your time watching this video, and if you want to support the channel, all you have to do is click that subscribe button below. So thanks again, and I hope to see you soon.